Alright, so let's go through the 5.1 exercises. So the 5.1 assignment, this was page 188, and you were assigned all of these problems on this page, so let's go through all of them. So number one says explain the difference between complementary angles and supplementary angles. If you remember my little trick from the lesson, the C can be turned into a 9, and the O looks like a 0, so this looks like 90 degrees. The S you can make into an 8, and then you can make that 180 degrees, which I said in the lesson was a little bit more of a stretch. So if you have supplementary, you can make that into a 180, that's 180 degrees. If you have complementary, you can make that into a 90, so 90 degrees. And that's just my little trick that my high school teacher taught me, just a way to help me remember that supplementary angles add to 180 degrees and complementary angles add to 90 degrees. So if they're complementary, that means they make a right angle. So they add up to 90 degrees and they form a right angle. So complementary angles are right, form a right angle. All right, so let's get to it. So what is the difference between the two? Well, I really just said it. I just have to write down my answers. So I'm going to put my answers over here for this. So I'm going to say for number one, complementary angles add to 90 degrees. And supplementary angles add to 180 degrees. All right, number two, let's see what we got. It says when two lines intersect, how many pairs of vertical angles are formed? All right, so if I have two lines that intersect, how many pairs of vertical angles are formed? Well, the keyword there is pairs, so it's not how many angles are formed. Vertical angles are angles formed by the intersection of two lines that are right across from each other. So this is one pair of vertical lines, vertical angles. This is one pair of vertical angles. And then right here, we have another pair of vertical angles right here. The other two that are right across from each other. So how many pairs? Well, again, one pair here, another pair there, since a pair means two. So we have two pairs. One pair here, one pair there. Each one consists of two angles. Alright, so let me write this down over here, or type this out over here. So for the second one, I'm going to say that there are two pairs of vertical angles. Alright, by the way, if you hear my son snoring in the background, I apologize. I'm doing this late at night. Alright, number three, it says, if x and y are supplementary, then x is obtuse. Tell if this statement is always, sometimes, or never true. I think this is straight off of the notes, if I remember right. If x and y are supplementary, that means they add to 180 degrees. So you have x, you have a y, and they must add to 180. That's given to us. And then we want to know, is this statement always, sometimes, or never true, that x is obtuse? Well, think of the different cases. So you have a case that x could be 100 degrees, an obtuse angle, and then y would have to be 80. So yeah, that's true, x is obtuse, so it's possible. But what if x is 70 degrees, and then y was 110 degrees? Well, they still add to 180. That's what's given to us. They have to add to 180. But if x is 70, then x is not obtuse, because an obtuse angle has to be greater than 90. So I'm going to say, for number three, I'm going to say this statement is sometimes true since x could equal, and I'll just say x could equal, like I was saying verbally, x could equal 100 degrees. If I could get my degree symbol. Won't let me copy it. There she is. All right, x could equal 100 degrees. Oh my goodness, this is getting frustrating. X could equal 100 degrees, and while y equals 80 degrees. or x could equal 80 degrees, while y equals 100 degrees. So I know I used different numbers when I was explaining it verbally, but that's the same idea there. So um, the statement is sometimes true since x could equal 100, making it obtuse, while y equals 80. Or x could equal 80, making it not obtuse, making it acute, while y is that other obtuse angle. All right, number 4, if x and y are right angles, then x and y are supplementary. Well, to be a right angle means that it's 90 degrees. So it says x and y are 90 degrees because they're right angles. So if you have x and y being 90 degrees, it says then x and y are supplementary. Well, is this always or sometimes or never true that x and y are supplementary if they are both 90? Well, if they are 90 and you add 90 plus 90, you will always get 180. You'll never get anything else. And if you add two angle measures and you get out 180 degrees, then they are supplementary. So this one is always true. So number 4, the statement is always true since if x and y are both 90 degrees, then they will always add to 180 degrees, which makes them supplementary. So it is always true. All right, and then number 5. There we go. All right, number 5. If x and y are complementary, so in this one it says that x and y are complementary, it means automatically that they must add to 90 degrees. So x and y add to 90 degrees. Then y is a right angle. Is that sometimes, always, or never true? Well, it says x and y are complementary. They add to 90 degrees. It says y is a right angle, meaning y is 90 degrees. So can y be 90 degrees if x and y add up to 90? Well, if you have x and y adding up to 90, so let's say x is 0, it would have to be 0 because we're going to have to add 90. It says x and y are complementary, so they have to add together to give us 90 degrees because they're complementary. So is y a right angle if x and y are complementary? Well, this guy, 0 degrees, that's not an angle. So you can't have a 0-degree angle, then it's just a ray. So on this one, it's a little tricky. It looks like y could be a right angle, but then x would have to be 0 degrees, and then it wouldn't be an angle at all. So then you don't have complementary angles. So on this one, in order for x and y to be complementary, x would have to be at least some fraction of a degree. So let's just, for argument's sake, say that x is 1 degree, and then y is then going to be 89 degrees. Then they're complementary, but then y is not a right angle. So this one is never going to be true. So for number 5, the statement is never true if y is a right angle, then x and y cannot be complementary angles, since x would have to be a 0, I'll put this in quotations because it doesn't really exist, a 0-degree angle. All right, the next set of questions here, actually the next 9 questions will go by much faster than those first 5 questions. So let's take a look at these. For the next 6, it says tell whether the angles are complementary, meaning they add to 90 degrees, supplementary, meaning they add to 180 degrees, or neither, meaning they don't add to 90 or 180. So this one, you just add them together and see what they add to. All right, so 122 plus 68, that's going to be 190 degrees. So not supplementary because they have to add to 180, not complementary because they'd have to add to just 90, and these add to 190. So these are going to be neither. And it doesn't say we have to explain, I'm just verbally explaining it to you. These are neither. All right, number 7. Visually, it looks like a right angle. It looks like they're going to be complementary, but let's double check that. If you add these together, you get 90. So yeah, sure enough, they are complementary angles. So these are complementary angles. Again, I'm writing with a mouse, so I'm going to abbreviate this. Please don't abbreviate on yours. All right, number 8. Add these together, we're going to again get 90 degrees. So that is, again, complementary angles, a pair of complementary angles. Here we've got 115 plus 65 is 170, 180, 180. Yep, so this is a pair of supplementary angles. I'm going to put SUPP, supplementary. Here, these look like they form a straight angle. So they're a straight angle pair because they add together to give you 180 degrees, but they are also supplementary because they add to 180 degrees. So they are supplementary. All right, and then these two, it looks visually like this might fit in there and make a 90-degree angle, but if you add these together, you get 100 degrees, so that is neither complementary nor supplementary. All right, moving on, the next three here. Find the value of x. Well, here we've got that little symbol that tells us that this is a right angle, so that means if I add these two angles together, this one plus this one should equal 90 degrees since that forms a right angle. So x plus 35 should equal 90. And then I'm going to solve this by subtracting 35 from both sides of my equation. So if I have x all by itself, make this a little smaller. These cancel. All right, x is by itself. And it equals 90 minus 35 is 55. So x is 55, and that's it. On the next one, it's very easy. These are vertical angles. So I'm just going to make a little note here that these are vertical angles. And vertical angles, as we've said in class, vertical angles are always congruent. So this is always equal to this one. So since that's 128, this one is 128. There's no work to be done on this one. And that's it. All right, number 14, what does x have to be? Well, you can see here that they form a straight line, so that tells me that there is 180 degrees when you add these two together since they form a straight line. So I'm going to just make a little equation, 117 plus x. So I'm adding this angle plus this angle and getting out a straight line tells me they add to 180 degrees. And I subtract 117 from both sides to get my value of x. So in this one, let me move that work over here. I want to move the whole thing over. There we go. All right, so on this one, subtract off 117, these will cancel. We get x by itself, and x is 180 minus 117 is 63. So x is 63 for this one. All right, two more to go. So number 15 says describe and correct the error. We're looking over here. Just by looking at the diagram here, I see that we have some vertical angles, so I know x should be 35. Let's take a look at this. It says the value of x is 55 because vertical angles are complementary. And it's one of those math words, starts with a C, but it actually should be congruent, meaning they have the same measure. Vertical angles are congruent. Complementary means they add to 90 degrees, and that's what I started out by talking about. All right, so that was the error in number 15. It should say congruent instead of complementary. And the last one, number 16, it says a tributary, this is a tributary, is joining a river at an angle, some angle, x. Find the value of x. Okay, well over here it says that this one is 127 degrees. So if they form a straight line, they have to add to 180, so I'm going to say that x plus 127 gives me 180 degrees. So x plus 127 is 180 degrees. So subtract off the 127 from both sides, and you get x by itself. And 180 minus 127 is 53, and that is the answer to the last question. So If you have any questions moving forward, feel free to email, call, or text. My information is posted at the top of the, or no, I moved it down to the bottom now, at the bottom of your classwork tab on Google Classroom. All right, have a nice day.